the superwoman lie, why your grind is killing your empire. I want to tell you about someone who's dismantling everything we've been taught about success, strength, and survival. Her name is Janetta Leadford, and she's not just building businesses, she's detonating the myth that Black women have to grind themselves into dust to matter. Through her Connect digital platform and specialized master classes on finance, resilience, digital growth, and leadership, she's empowered over 751 African women led green initiatives in her first cohort alone. But what makes Janetta revolutionary isn't just the numbers, it's the message she's bringing to women who've been taught that their worth is measured by their exhaustion. She's teaching something dangerous. She's teaching that the most radical business strategy for Black women entrepreneurs isn't grinding harder, it's embracing softness as your superpower. And today I want to share what Janetta and the incredible women featured on the Soft Girl Era podcast are teaching us. Because what they're saying challenges everything we've been sold about what it takes to build wealth, lead powerfully, and survive in systems designed to break us. Let me ask you something. When you picture a successful Black woman entrepreneur, what do you see? I'm willing to bet you're imagining someone who's always on, always hustling, always strong. Someone who wakes up before dawn, juggles 15 projects, leads her team with an iron fist, raises her children, manages her household, carries her community on her back, and never ever shows weakness. Am I right? We've been taught that this is what strength looks like, that this is what success requires, that if we want to build empires and systems not designed for us, we have to work twice as hard, be twice as strong, and never ever rest. We've been taught that softness is a luxury we can't afford, that rest is something we have to earn, that boundaries are for other people, not for us. But here's what nobody tells you: that cape you're wearing, it's crushing you. And the empire you're building on exhaustion, it's built on sand. It's crumbling while you're too tired to notice. Janetta recognized something that most people refuse to see. She saw Black women doing everything right, checking every box, following every rule, and still treading water, still burned out, still unfulfilled, still wondering why their businesses weren't thriving the way they should, despite the fact that they were pouring everything they had into them. And she realized something radical. The problem wasn't that these women weren't working hard enough. The problem was that they were performing strength in systems that were never designed for them in the first place. So she asked a dangerous question: what if we stopped performing? What if we stopped grinding ourselves into oblivion? What if instead of constantly proving our strength to people who will never see us as strong enough, we practice something else entirely? What if we practice softness? Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Softness in business? That sounds like a recipe for failure. That sounds weak. That sounds like giving up. That sounds like everything our mothers and grandmothers warned us against. But here's where it gets interesting. Because when Janetta and the women on Soft Girl Era talk about softness, they're not talking about weakness. They're not talking about giving up. They're not talking about lowering your standards or settling for less. They're talking about strategy. They're talking about rest as a competitive advantage. They're talking about boundaries as wealth building tools. They're talking about protecting your peace as the foundation for sustainable success. Let me tell you about Monifa Lemons Jackson. Monifa is what society would call a high achiever, the kind of woman who's accomplished everything we're told we should accomplish. She's checked the boxes, she's climbed the ladders, she's broken the glass ceilings. But when she appeared on Soft Girl Era, she shared something vulnerable, something most high achievers would never admit. She was burned out. Despite all her achievements, despite doing everything right, despite following the script perfectly, she felt exhausted, unfulfilled, and disconnected from herself. Sound familiar? Monifa made a choice that most people would call reckless. She decided to embrace softness, not as an escape from ambition, but as a strategy for sustainable success. She started setting boundaries without apology. She started resting without guilt. She started redefining what strength meant to her, not based on what society expected, but based on what her soul required. And something remarkable happened. Her business didn't collapse. Her impact didn't diminish. Her reputation didn't crumble. Instead, she found herself making sharper decisions, building stronger relationships, and creating work that actually fulfilled her instead of depleting her. She shifted from exhaustion to what she calls exquisite fulfillment. And she did it by honoring her ambition alongside her humanity, by refusing to choose between success and softness, by recognizing that the two aren't opposites, they're partners. Now, let's talk about why this matters, because this isn't just about individual women feeling better. This isn't just about self care or bubble baths or vision boards. This is about challenging a system that profits from our exhaustion. This is about disrupting a culture that needs us tired, compliant, and too burned out to question whether there's a better way. Think about it. We live in a culture that glorifies grind, that celebrates hustle, that tells us rest is for the weak and boundaries are selfish. And who does that serve? It doesn't serve us. It serves a system that needs our labor, our creativity, our brilliance, and gives us scraps in return. It serves a system that extracts everything we have and calls it empowerment. Black women, in particular, have been taught that we have to be superhuman just to be seen as human. We've been taught that softness is dangerous, that rest is laziness, that boundaries are selfishness, that asking for help is weakness. We've been taught that we have to carry everyone and everything. And if we dare to put something down, we're failures. But here's the truth that Janetta and the women of soft girl era are teaching us. Softness isn't weakness. Softness is wisdom. Rest isn't laziness. Rest sharpens your decision making. Boundaries aren't selfish. Boundaries build wealth. And asking for help isn't weakness. It's the smartest strategic move you can make. Let me give you the research because this isn't just philosophy, it's science. Studies on decision fatigue show that when we're exhausted, we make worse choices. We miss opportunities that are right in front of us. We say yes to things that don't serve us and no to things that do. We operate from scarcity instead of abundance. We react instead of respond. We survive instead of thrive. But when we're rested, when we've protected our peace, when we've set clear boundaries, we think more clearly. We see possibilities we couldn't see before. We make strategic moves instead of reactive ones. We build from abundance instead of desperation. In other words, softness isn't just good for your soul, it's good for your bottom line, it's good for your business, it's good for your legacy. Now, I want to tell you about Shakrista Caldwell. Shakrista's story is different from Janetta's and Monifa's, but it illustrates the same revolutionary principle. Shakrista is a single mother of four who transitioned from incarceration to entrepreneurship. She faced trauma that would break most people. She faced systemic barriers designed to keep her down. She faced the kind of broken beginnings that society tells us are destiny, not data. But Shakrista did something remarkable. She refused to let her past define her future. She used her past as data, not destiny. She integrated softness, faith, and strategic boundaries into her rebuilding process. She didn't try to be superhuman. She didn't pretend her wounds didn't exist. She didn't perform strength for people who would never see her as strong enough anyway. Instead, she tended to her wounds. She rested. She set boundaries. She asked for help. She built her business on a foundation of wholeness instead of hustle. And today, she's not just thriving, she's not just surviving, she's empowering others. She's showing Black women in underserved communities that you can lead with softness and still create wealth. that you can honor your humanity and still build an empire, that your past doesn't define your future, but your practices do, that you don't have to choose between success and softness, between ambition and rest, between building wealth and protecting your peace. So, what does this mean for you? What does softness and as strategy actually look like in practice? Because I know some of you are sitting there thinking, this sounds beautiful, but how do I actually do this? How do I embrace softness when I have bills to pay, children to raise, teams to lead, and communities counting on me? First, it means rejecting grind culture. It means recognizing that working yourself to exhaustion isn't a badge of honor, it's a warning sign. It means prioritizing what actually matters instead of trying to do everything. Because when you're clear about your priorities, you make wiser decisions. You build stronger businesses. You create sustainable success instead of burnout disguised as achievement. Second, it means setting boundaries without apology. It means protecting your peace through rest and community. It means saying no to things that drain you and yes to things that fill you. And here's the revolutionary part, it means recognizing that boundaries aren't selfish. Boundaries are how you protect your capacity to show up fully for the things and people that matter most. Boundaries are how you preserve your brilliance instead of diluting it across 1,000 obligations that don't serve you. Third, it means embracing strategic softness in inequitable systems. Because here's the reality we have to face, the systems we're operating in weren't designed for us. They were designed to extract our labor, our creativity, our brilliance, and give us scraps in return. They were designed to keep us exhausted, compliant, and too tired to imagine something different. And the only way to thrive in those systems without burning out is to refuse to play by their rules, to build businesses and lives that honor our humanity, to practice softness as resistance. Janetta's work proves this. Through her Connect platform and master classes, she's not just teaching skills, she's not just offering tools, she's teaching a new paradigm. She's showing African women entrepreneurs that they don't have to choose between ambition and rest, between success and softness, between building wealth and protecting their peace. She's showing them that these things aren't opposites, they're partners. And the results speak for themselves. 751 women led green initiatives empowered in the first cohort. 751 women who are building sustainable businesses because they learned to build sustainable lives first. 751 women who are proving that softness isn't the opposite of strength, it's the source of it. This is what happens when we stop performing strength and start practicing softness. This is what happens when we recognize that rest isn't the opposite of productivity, it's the foundation of it. This is what happens when we build empires on wholeness instead of hustle. Now, I want to be absolutely clear about something. Embracing softness doesn't mean you stop being ambitious. It doesn't mean you stop working hard. It doesn't mean you lower your standards or settle for mediocrity. What it means is that you work smarter. You lead from a place of fullness instead of depletion. You make decisions from clarity instead of exhaustion. You build businesses that sustain you instead of consuming you. And here's what's truly revolutionary about this. When Black women embrace softness as strategy, we don't just transform our own lives, we transform our communities. We model a different way of being for our daughters and the generations coming behind us. We create businesses that treat people with dignity instead of extracting their labor. We build wealth that's rooted in values, not just value extraction. We prove that another world is possible. We prove that we can be ambitious and whole, successful and human, strong and soft. So let me ask you the question that Janetta asked me, the question that changed everything. What if your next big breakthrough comes not from doing more, but from resting smarter? What if the empire you're trying to build would actually grow faster if you stopped grinding and started grounding? What if softness isn't the opposite of strength, but the source of it? What if the cape you're wearing isn't protecting you, it's suffocating you? I know this is hard to hear. I know it goes against everything we've been taught. I know that for Black women, especially those of us who've spent decades in survival mode, the idea of softness can feel dangerous. It can feel like giving up. It can feel like we're betraying everyone who sacrificed so we could have opportunities they didn't. It can feel like we're letting down our ancestors, our communities, our children. But here's what I want you to understand: honoring their sacrifice doesn't mean repeating their suffering. Honoring their strength doesn't mean performing exhaustion. The most powerful way to honor the women who came before us is to build the lives they dreamed of but couldn't access. Lives where we thrive, not just survive. Lives where we rest without guilt. Lives where we're soft and strong, ambitious and whole, successful and human. Here's what I want you to do. This isn't a suggestion, this is a challenge. This week, set one unapologetic boundary, just one. Maybe it's saying no to a request that doesn't serve you. Maybe it's blocking off time for rest that you don't have to earn or explain or justify to anyone. Maybe it's asking for help instead of carrying everything alone. Maybe it's choosing yourself for once instead of choosing everyone else. Set that boundary and watch what happens. Watch how your empire responds. Watch how your clarity sharpens. Watch how your capacity expands. Watch how your business grows when you stop depleting yourself to feed it. Because here's the truth that Janetta, Monifa, Shakrista, Chakrachita, and the entire soft girl era community are teaching us. Softness isn't a trend. It's not a phase. It's not something we do when we finally made it. Softness is the strategy that gets us there. Softness is how we build empires that last. Softness is how we reclaim the joy, rest, and freedom we deserve without guilt, without apology, and without explanation. The revolution you're waiting for isn't louder, it's softer, and it doesn't start tomorrow. It starts right now. It starts with you choosing yourself. It starts with you putting down the cape. It starts with you recognizing that real strength isn't about how much you can carry, it's about knowing what to put down. So step into your soft girl era. Not because you're giving up on your dreams, but because you're finally giving yourself permission to achieve them in a way that honors your whole humanity. Not because you're weak, but because you're wise enough to know that the grind isn't working, that the hustle is a lie, that the cape is crushing you. The empire you're building deserves a foundation that won't crumble, and that foundation is you, whole, rested, soft, and unapologetically free.